Sorry, that
Oh
was a
no,
bad joke. I will stop.
no, please continue. It's because they're also
Yeah.
greedy fuckers. They reckon dragons have got more loot.
Uh, is there a
Cameron.
dungeon in there as well? Because if there is, sign me up.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like some green
I mean,
veg.
Vikings
Try-
and dragons seem like a good
Sure,
combination.
fine.
I don't know.
Do you want
Yeah,
this?
doesn't it? It does sound pretty dope.
Saucy. Sorry, I'm just giving my wife experimental vegetables. Let's see. Maybe it kills it, maybe it doesn't. I just realized that I'd walked away from the computer without switching the mute button.
Hmm.
No worries. Yeah, we usually do the question before the recap. I know that's no reason you would have known that. But do you guys want to do a question for tonight, or do you just want to jump in?
Yeah, let's do a question. I just cannot roll it right now. I will be back at my computer desk in a minute. Promise.
Yeah, then let's roll one up. Who's got there first? Kamala, you're usually quickest on the draw.
Yeah, I don't even try because she's always beating me, and now apparently it's not that day today.
You get distracted. Okay, but I rolled one for a change. It's a good one. What stereotypical group role does your character play in Party? Like the mom, the mess, the comic relief, that kind of thing. Like who would they be in a 5-man band?
Mm. Okay. That's a good question.
Do you guys know the trope of the 5-man band?
I personally don't, but I can Google it up.
It's a 5-man band. There's what? Drummer, guitarist, lead singer, bassist.
No, not quite that. Like in narrative fiction, you've got the leader, the lancer, the heart, the smart guy, and the big guy. So every like anime have always got this kind of dynamic, but loads of stories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a huge thing in like comics that you always see this.
Ah, okay.
But it's also D&D kind of creates its own dynamic like that with like you'll have the paladin, the rogue, but it's interesting just on a character level, like on a personality level. The big guy doesn't necessarily have to be the literal big guy. Like in our other game, we've got a mouse folk that's definitely the big guy. But
That's awesome.
That is a tricky question, actually. Love to hear what Gorm's view is, because I think that Svenja and Gorm compete sometimes for the healer. Okay, here's what I'm going to go with for Svenja. I think she is the reluctant killer. The person who deals the most damage, even though she doesn't want to do that. She wants to be the mom, but she's possibly more of the stepmom. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Not sure I'm making up good shit tonight. Keep practicing. We'll get there.
I think for Atrax, although he's kind of stereotypically he's a big guy physically. He could also be the heart, as he could be kind of a link between, like, in the future, the way I imagined him. He has a heart of gold, and he tries to make people, tries to kind of bring out the better side of them. So maybe like that. So yeah.
That kind of works for me. Camilla? So I'm looking forward actually to seeing how that plays out, because our session 0 was essentially our characters as 6, 7, 8-year-old kids adventuring into a cave and killing a troll. So you may hear of Ulfield the Troll Slayer now and then. It's a backstory thing. So I think that what might be interesting is, as young adults, we'd never had to get to know how to work with each other like a traditional adventuring party would be. We just kind of grew up together.
Interesting, yeah.
So having an external person that comes in and sort of encourages us to do the right thing instead of the childish squabbles, looking at Mikkel and Gorm here, that we always have, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Atrax just tries to kind of see the better side of people, but he won't impose anything if that's not needed. So he won't do it. So yeah.
So for Mikkel, the person playing him isn't very smart, but I would categorize him as the smart one. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely the tinkerer. It's less of like, look, I made a gadget that's going to solve our problem, but more like, look, I enchanted a sword that's going to kill our problem.
Isn't
Nice.
that basically how we solve problems? Like, we are Vikings. If we don't,
Yeah, this unfortunately with Saga last week, I think it might have been the problem. But I was like, I don't know how diplomatic this game's actually going to get. But who knows? You guys are planning on making some allies, so
yeah.
I think let's jump into it. As last we left off, you guys were standing around the war table with the Jarl, and one of the things that we were going to do, but it was sort of getting to the end of the session, is actually develop the domain stat block, which each of you are going to get points to spend, and those points can be used to develop Raudavik. So this is kind of going to be the time to, you can role play into that a little bit as well, as I'd like you guys to kind of discuss what your plans are actually for Raudavik, and how, now that you guys have got some titles yourselves, how you're going to help run Raudavik as these new officers. And you will do that mechanically by actually spending your points. So those kind of act like a vote. I'm going to get up the relevant things now, but I will leave it to you guys as these conversations are just kind of beginning. The Jarl's just shown you the war table, and you are in the midst of the celebrations that are still going on in Raudavik. What would you guys like to do?
Okay.
And sorry, I know I'm terrible at interrupting like that, but sorry. The quest log has now got some new things in it that narratively you guys could discover tonight as you are kind of speaking with these different NPCs. So like Svenja, you're going to meet with Neilmir tonight, and she's got a quest there from that interaction. So it might be a little bit meta spoilery to read through those, but they are there if you guys want to start deciding where you're going to take this story and what quests you might want to follow as you set out on your journey tomorrow or whenever you leave.
So, Atrax would look at the others. What are the big decisions that we should make for now, since we are all here in this wonderful place with this wonderful company? I think the Jarl is awaiting our counsel.
So Svenja would be, I mean, it's been a hectic couple of days, weeks leading up to the battle. So she would almost sit back and take a bit of a think about what she's interested in. So her original underlying personality, if you want to, is that of someone who's incredibly curious and wants to learn stuff and gather knowledge and the library and scarce scrolls and lore books and runes and things like that. So that would be, I think she's coming to the conclusion that that's maybe not gonna happen for her as a Viking. But her inclination would be towards following up on leads on knowledge and things. So there's in the background her mother fleeing and the stories behind that. And there is also, on the other hand, her mother is the background for Atrax. Her mother is one of the advisors to the Jarl, and she's been kind of understudying how to advise the Jarl. So she's more, I guess, in tune with politics and things than the rest of the party. So that combination of what can we learn plus how do we use this victory while it's still fresh. So she's busy composing this massive saga story about the entire battle, but it's early days yet. And how do we utilize this almost moral advantage we have right now to expand the territory? That's, I think, why she's interested in going to Plastovik or do some sort of raid, or not a raid necessarily, but
a show of force.
A show of force, a sort of a bend the knee is kind of the phrase that springs to mind.
Got it.
We are here. We can bring our full armies, or you can choose to, sort of swear allegiance.
Yeah.
So that her motivation around expanding the territory and learning more is kind of what she wants to do, rather than go after gold. But she's also skilled in, I guess, the art of politics and ruling, and understanding that lots of gold gives you good armies and much better negotiation positions. So she's not against the idea of going after treasure, but her motivation is not for herself. It's really to expand influence.
Yeah, I get that. Atrax would also follow kind of a similar path in mentality, so I understand.
So I can almost see her. She almost wants to be in a position where she is so famous, respected, and or feared that people will bring stuff to her. Here's an interesting book that we found, or an interesting rumor, or something we've discovered. So she doesn't want to go and find the people have to bring her stuff or tell her where scarce things are.
Well, for reference, that would be the lore skill. The things that you're describing there are very much lore related, and if you wanted to spend points there, that could help you to achieve that kind of thing.
Excellent. I am still trying to find it. So it sits in compendium under. It doesn't sit in compendium.
So there's in the actors tab, you'll see a folder called domains where Bradovic should be in there. But you don't have to worry too much about that now. That'll help you to see what the different scores are for. But the development cost, did that show up for everyone?
Yeah, but it disappeared for me.
Okay,
It does show up for me, yes.
You should be able to find it again in the journals. There should be a thing called development costs.
I'm sorry to do this, but I think I have to go to bed because I have like a massive headache, even though I've taken like painkillers.
Okay, no worries, man. If you feel better, feel free to jump back in, but hope you feel better.
Yeah, I'm just keeping it running like always.
Cool, thank you. Alright, well, we'll wish him well, but we are kind of planning the journey, so I think we'll be okay with fewer players tonight.
Okay, so I'm looking at the strongholds and followers in Horn's journal stuff. Search journal development.
Yeah, it's not in any other folder, it should just be its own thing. Hold on.
I can't see it.
It says I don't have permission to view this document.
There we go. Should all be.
Okay, now I see. Nice.
Okay, so when you open that, you'll see a table, and that table is where these points are spent. So 1 point doesn't necessarily equate to the modifier going up, but like you have 16 points to spend, and we'll divide that between the three of you that are playing, and we can just go one by one, and kind of as you discuss, if you want to spend a point, you can spend a point. But yeah, what's 16 divided by 3?
Well, it should be 5.333333. Okay, got
Okay,
it.
so we'll let Svenja get the extra point because she killed Elsa.
Favoritism here, but thank you. We'll take it.
But otherwise, just for reference, diplomacy is going to be like your Game of Thrones style, using your words to form alliances and standings. Espionage is getting spies in there to gather information, maybe cause you can cause a rebellion in another place that you're attacking. Like, that's a very helpful skill. Lore is kind of what Svenja was just talking about. Operations is pretty much everything that doesn't fall into another category, but a big one would be like Mikil, probably your interests, where for building fortifications or training armies, like maintaining the forge, things like that would fall under operations. And then those skills are always used against the defenses, which are pretty self-explanatory. But those things, those are like an AC, so those are something that needs to be beaten, or like a DC. And when you're in intrigue with someone, like, you can attack those things to cause other effects, but those are all in Kingdoms and Warfare. You don't have to worry about that right now. The main thing is that those are going to be your main defenses if you do get into conflict with someone. So you want to make sure that you've got something shored up. Abradovic's already developed to a point that you can see where those points are, but those points that you spend now are going to be like for the first 2 levels, basically. So that will determine where we move from.
Okay. Let's see. you said that one development point it's not equal to like one level up. Like, is it this like with point buy system when you're making a character, or is it anything similar to that one, or is it
No,
totally different?
that's what the development costs thing is. That's why I was asking you to open that, because you'll see a table there, and there's an
Yeah, no, I get
asterisk.
it.
So every time you spend a point, the asterisk will move one to the right. So you'll see some of them there's a gap. So like if you want to
Got it.
get to
Yeah,
bonus,
yeah.
then you have to spend
Yeah,
3.
yeah. I see the gaps. Yeah, I thought that was just an error in the table, but yeah, now I understand.
Yeah, it's hard to get them to display properly in Foundry, but those gaps are the asterisk would move into those gaps. So that's why you also kind of want to coordinate some of these things so that you can all agree on where Broudebek is going, but you all have that authority to make those decisions now. So I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay. Atrax would probably be more on the side of diplomacy and operations, as he's better. I mean, he's not extremely charismatic, but he thinks he is. So he would probably go with that, and operation, of course, because he had like military training and stuff like that. But I wouldn't want to leave the espionage like at its current level, because like Deb said, it could be proved very useful in future expansions.
Yes. So I guess the question I have is espionage also the thing we use for counter espionage? So to kind of prevent spies from spying.
Well, that might be communications, because that's something that like it depends if you're defending your own network, but yeah, espionage could definitely be like sending an assassin to take out a particularly problematic individual. That's anything sort of spy related. These things are meant to be kind of like normal D&D skills, where like it's not specific what that skill can be used for, but in the moment you might be able to make an argument for like, I'm going to send the spy to go and try and do this. But yeah, that's as creative as you want to get.
Yeah. So, sorry to ask too many questions. I just want to make things sure for my brain. The development points, we can only invest in diplomacy, espionage, lore, and operations, or also in communications, resolve, and resources.
Yeah, those. So you can either shore up your defenses, which are those last 3, or your skills, which are more offensive.
Okay, so all 7 are up for debate. Got it.
Yeah, and every time you level up, you get 8 more development points. But to do that, you have to defeat another domain, and then they would get smaller, and you would get bigger. Like you have to somehow develop it. But for now, you guys are level 2, so you've got 16 to spend between. So just let me know if you'd like to actually spend a point. Just tell me where and how many, and we can put it in there. But yeah, please discuss.
Atrax has said, I'm happy with diplomacy and operations to support that. So we're 3, so it's 5 each. 4.
I mean, no, I was thinking that Atrax could invest in diplomacy operations, and now maybe resolve or resources. Now that I got it right, and you guys could focus on the others, like so a bit, so it could be more balanced, so we won't leave kind of anything out.
Yeah. I mean, you've got 5 points, or do you want to put all of your points between those 2?
Yeah, I could put like 1 point in diplomacy, 2 in operations, and maybe 2 in resources, or 1 in resolve and 1 in resources.
Okay.
So I could be doing that, and then you guys can decide. I mean, we can decide together if you want, but you can also decide on yourselves where you would put your points.
You guys maybe want to do it one by one so you can see how it is developing, and then you can.
Yeah.
Because also this is going to be reflected in you actually giving orders. So if you want to think about how your character is actually going about doing these things, like not just looking at the table. I mean, you can think about like, okay, yeah, we're going to organize we could train up some spies to go and send out into the world, and that's spending a point in espionage. It's up to you how you want to flavor it, but just, yeah, don't don't let the table be the only thing you see.
Okay, I got you. So can I go first then, since I'm the first in the Discord chat?
Yeah, go.
Okay, thank you. So Atrax would suggest 2 points in operations, and how he would how would I flavor that is that Atrax would take the time at least a couple of hours a day to personally kind of oversee the training of some troops, just so that they receive the top training that they need. Apart from that, he would also recall from his late father a few words of wisdom, and he would try to. So, one more point in diplomacy, because he would try to gather as many people like at these, I don't know how to call them, but maybe just gatherings, central gatherings in the town square or stuff like that, to gather the opinions of people, but also to gather people who are well versed in the art of conversation, and will try to maybe not do it himself, but kind of delegate people who would be able to do so. Or I don't know how they would do these things in, I don't know, in medieval times, but still, that's what I had in mind. Okay, and I still have 2 points.
Well, do you want to hang on to those and let's see how it develops?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. If you want, you can go after the.
Okay, so I think that building on after the battle, where everybody started resting, Svenja went around, connected with everybody, seeing if they're okay, thanking them personally, and all those sort of things. I think that exercise of making sure she talks to everybody, she's engaging with everybody, would put for me 1 point in diplomacy and 1 point in communications. As she just, I mean, it makes it sound as if she's like this cold politician. She is very much a people's person, not so much in the party drinking, fighting style, not the Viking thing, but the singing, telling stories around the fire, talking to people, listening to people is very much her thing. So I would propose that the first 2 points, 1 diplomacy, 1 communications, because she's just connecting with everybody that helped, and also with those people from the opposing armies that have decided to surrender and stay.
Yeah.
And that includes the person who weirdly looks like Ursula. So that's the next morning. She will check in. Let's start with those 2.
Okay, cool. So I've got, just to double check, Atrax, you spent 3 points there, right? I didn't
Yes, 3 out of my 5.
Perfect. So then that's 5 total that have been spent. Mikil, which way are you leaning? And also, is it updating for you guys? Can you see the
yes
on the table? Cool.
Well, operations is already quite high. We want to even out. So law, is that just like any knowledge we have, like pertaining to domains, creatures, resources, etc.?
Sorry, say again. I misunderstood the question.
So the law skill, is that like stuff we know about domains, like enemies, the relations, resources, stuff
That
like
would be more espionage. The law would be more for like magical information. So yeah, maybe if you're looking into something specific, like what kind of creatures they are using, if but that's more like information on, okay, we're fighting this draconic empire, how do we kill a dragon, as opposed to okay, how many strongholds do they have, or how many, like, where are their towers, who are their leaders, that kind of thing would be espionage.
Okay.
The law could also be looking for like historical information, like is there an ancient artifact, or are there like tombs or something in their domain that we might be able to find. You know, that those are, it's quite specific magical information that you might be looking for, and exploring that kind of thing would be law, whereas espionage is more of your militaristic, like that kind of useful information, what kind of units they've got, that kind of thing.
Okay. So I am going to spend 2 points on law, and then the way we could study it is we could send people out to look at the ships from Flustervik, see if there's any magical residual energy left on the ships, and maybe scrolls. See if there's anything valuable that we can study and take apart.
Oh yeah, I like that. So yeah, you send some people that'll, I mean, they'll be able to use what they find there, as there were some destroyed ships, and a lot of that will go to construction materials that could be used to upgrade other ships and that kind of thing. But anything magical they find, they manage to start researching along with some of the satyrs and the tree folk. Yeah, you guys are kind of getting there. You operations are still your main benefit here, but that diplomacy and law, a bit of help on that front could really boost you guys up. So your espionage still not looking great either.
Okay.
It's actually a tough tough pull.
Okay. In that case, I still have 3 points left. I'm gonna invest 1 point into resources, and so you'll see Mikkel going around ordering the different lumberjacks we have to go and gather resources, and also order his, forget his name, Marcus was it, to keep working on orders by the smithy, so we can bolster our defenses after the attack.
Yeah, I think that gathering the ship's materials will probably help with that as well.
And then for my last 2 points, this isn't my expertise, but I'll discuss this with Svenja, like ask her how we can espionage, spy on the people of Flustervik, see if she has any good ideas.
So I am thinking, so she would answer